Welcome to the show, everybody. Two new research papers just dropped outlining that quantum may break Bitcoin much sooner than anticipated, putting 6.9 million coins at risk. But also, is it possible that the people behind the reports may have either ulterior motives or misaligned incentives? Also, Iran just moments ago dropped an open letter to the American people, with President Trump set to make an important announcement this evening, a potential ceasefire on the table. But will this be yet another bait and switch? Tonight, the whole gang is back to dive into this and plenty more. Strap in, drop a like on the video. I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is Bitcast. The issue is not red or blue. The issue is between the state and you.
It can be a little bit of a warning sign.
It gives you a tool to empower.
That sounds like a utopia, my friend.
It is. It's exactly a utopia.
With Bitcoin, no one can take it from you.
All right, we're in, gentlemen. It is great to see you, Walker. I guess it's fine to have you back. Whatever.
Nobody cares. Nobody missed you.
Guys tried to replace me.
Be nice.
Is, with
Good job.
American,
Look at you guys taking time away from fishing, man. Look at them. Come on.
Yeah, you know, I'm out here slaving away on the river, catching beautiful fish. Meanwhile, what's American HODL doing? Probably like oiling his Eastman chairs, or I'm not even fancy enough to know what brand of fancy chair he has, but I know it's fancy. And that's all I've got to say about that. But
all right.
Joey,
amazing.
Good to see you.
Very happy to have everybody back. Actually, this will be a good rip. There's lots going on. There's been plenty of quantum FUD. People are wondering what the hell is going on, what to actually worry about. And so I kind of want to break down just what actually has happened, what we know currently, and then maybe outline a little bit and get everybody's kind of takes on this, because I know we're going to have some divergent views. I'm somewhere in the middle myself. But so these two papers, they just dropped over the past couple of days, and they kind of have everybody rattled. So neither is due to a hardware breakthrough. So this is not in relation to the actual hardware itself. It's all actually in the algorithmic workings. So smarter math means that you need a much smaller and less efficient quantum computer to actually crack Bitcoin. And when I say crack Bitcoin, what does that actually mean? It means like the wallets, not mining. This is not inclusive of mining. So the previous estimates were something like millions of qubits were needed to crack a wallet, whereas the new estimate is somewhere in the realm of 500,000. So that still does not exist, but the goalposts have moved significantly. So the math is independently verifiable. It's not like some vague, maybe this, like, no, like the math of what is required to break things is real, but it does not exist yet. Now, this pertains to Bitcoin wallets sitting or Bitcoin sitting in addresses where the public key has been exposed. And so what does that mean? First of all, how many Bitcoin does this pertain to? So there's about 1.7 million from the Satoshi era sitting exposed right now. So the public key is exposed on chain first. Again, that would be the first target that you would see. If it ever happened, this is where the money would move. But overall, there's estimates, and there's been back and forth about this, but about 6.9 million Bitcoin total could be vulnerable to this type of attack if possible. And this is mostly from people reusing the same Bitcoin address over and over. So this could be exchanges that have like singular deposit addresses for individual users that are then spent out of over and over. It also applies to poorly constructed wallets. Wallets that just use a single address. If you're using anything halfway decent, you will have new addresses every single time you receive. And when you send out, it actually sends out the entirety of the Bitcoin from that address and sends it out to the destination and then change back to a new change address that you have in your wallet. So good wallets would not be immediately vulnerable to this unless you made a mistake and deposited more than once to an address you've already spent out of. Again, mining proof of work would be totally fine. Interesting thing, taproot addresses, the public key is exposed.
Yeah.
So the new taproot addresses would be kind of fucked with this. The other thing, there'd be kind of two different types of attacks. So the slow attack, this would be like already existing wallets where public key is exposed and you have plenty of time to just go and crack them. The fast attack would be if the computers got fast enough to execute this attack during a spend. So you spend, and then there's a potentially up to 10-minute or more window where that transaction's in the mempool and the public key is exposed. So that's where that could also be possible. The hardware doesn't exist right now. So the largest relevant systems today have around 100 to 120 usable qubits. Google's Willow chip, I think, has 105. You need considerably more than that. But it's just, it's the rate at which the goalposts move closer. So it wasn't an explosion in like, oh, wow, our hardware is so much better. It's we learned how to more efficiently do things. The other element of this that people have been talking about of kind of who is, bringing this to light, there were two papers. One from a Bitcoin research development person. We'll get into that in a second.
Suspicious, air quotes.
Working alongside Coinbase. And then Nick Carter was the one kind of sharing around a big one in relation to this. And so people were talking about conflicts of interest. So I'll kind of show. So the one guy, the Bitcoin research developer, he actually works for the Ethereum Foundation. So he changed out his he changed out his bio on X, but forgot to update it on LinkedIn. Anyways, Ethereum Foundation, dude. Fair enough, whatever. And then, of course, like Nick Carter is heavily invested in like quantum resistant, kind of like post quantum, those types of companies, and so people were pointing at that. Now, me personally, I'm like, I think the investment part into the post quantum stuff, like I don't think it's like we can say we're compromised by owning Bitcoin and promoting Bitcoin, right? Like it's the same kind of thing that you can. So I don't necessarily buy that, but it is funny. I'll also point out that people in Ethereum have a lot extra reason to be worried about this type of attack. Why? Because the way that Ethereum wallets work is it's a singular address. You just have like a receive address for your Ethereum wallet, and that's it. And so once you've spent, like it's designed to be spent out of repeatedly, and you just have that one address. And so like those public keys, most of those public keys are now just kind of like out there. And so there's tricky bits about that too. So I'm going to open it up to you guys. Like, what are you thinking about this?
Can we go to Ricky Bobby in the corner first? I want to hear what he has to say.
Well, I think it's Ben just gave us another great reason not to own Ethereum if you needed any more. I don't know. Okay. There's a lot of stuff going around about this. You can look at data, like separating data presented from the people presenting it, sure. But you also need to look at motivations for the presenting it. Nick Carter, I'm not too worried about. He's been actually like a great advocate for Bitcoin. Like, let's be honest, like environmental FUD wise, he was fighting that FUD quite a lot for a long time.
His star is rising.
His star will continue to rise. But okay, so like leaving him aside, the guy, the whole screenshot was like the Ethereum Foundation guy who like changed his bio, like Bitcoin security researcher. It's like, to me, the interesting thing here, first of all, even they're saying like 2032 might be Q day, right? Probably they're trying to put the most catastrophic view of that forward, which means that probably it's less catastrophic than that. Even if it is, there's multiple different BIPs in place for Bitcoin right now that address all of these things, Peta Merkle root, all of these BIP 360 and whatnot. There's multiple others, multiple different paths we could take here. Okay. So like you've got, and I think it was BitPain who, let me see if I can find it quick. BitPain summed this up like very well.
He's been going hard on it.
Yeah. Basically saying like, look, you could either like assume, paraphrasing here, you can assume that yes, quantum's going to crack crack Bitcoin in this very quick amount of time, and that all of these things will fall into place exactly as everybody says, and Bitcoiners, the Bitcoin development community, will do absolutely nothing, in which case your coins might be at risk. And of course, you would have had to reuse addresses or use taproot addresses or all these different things. And in the meantime, sure, yeah, just go like sell your coins and get some government paper money in exchange. Like, or you could try and have a slightly higher level of testosterone, a little more testicular fortitude, and you could just buck the fuck up. On this, the thing about the Ethereum guy, and then I'll pass it off, that just annoys me is it's like, this is so fucking classic Ethereum people. Like these fucking just, and I don't want to stereotype, but these low T little soy boy cucks. And they're not even cucks because they don't have women in the first place, so you can't even be a cuck. But like the point stands, they do everything that they can to disparage Bitcoin because they realize that they're running a centralized corporation. A corporation that it's a foundation, okay, whatever. All that they do is sell ETH. They just sell ETH to fund everything they do. They dump on Ethereum holders, right? We know also that probably a lot of people at Ethereum, the Ethereum Foundation Corporation, are realizing that the switch to proof of stake was actually a terrible idea long term. Like they know it. Remember the merge, the purge, all these things, and they're like, look, remember ultrasound money? Remember how they pitched it as ultrasound money? And like you look at that graph of Ethereum issuance, and it's like, oh my God, look at that, it came positive again. Who could have possibly thought that? Because you like, it's just all so stupid. And so I think like, yeah, is there a realistic quantum threat to Bitcoin within our lifetimes? Sure. Could it never materialize? Sure. Could it very easily materialize? Absolutely. All of these things are possible. We're living in a quantum universe, right? Multiple things can happen. But like, does that actually change anybody's thesis right now? And so many things would have to happen for you to actually get fucked by this, right? Now, I think a really interesting question is what should we actually do with quantum vulnerable coins like Satoshi's coins in the event of a Q day? That's actually a really interesting. I think it's probably going to result in some very volatile price action if and when that does happen. But that's like a kind of cross that bridge when we come to it thing. There's going to be multiple proposals put forward. I think it's going to be a bit of a schism between like the more cypherpunk minded Bitcoiners and sort of the corporate Bitcoiners in that regard. We can get into that a little bit, but I think it's really interesting. We're talking about it already. Quantum was first discussed on the Bitcoin Talk Forum in like 2011. This is not something that Bitcoiners have been like not talking about. It's been talked about. We should continue talking about it, but also fuck Ethereum. So that's my thoughts.
Can I just also say, in the grand scheme of things, like you mentioned, like there's BIPs that have been BIP 360. There's a number of different things. It's not being ignored. I actually kind of feel like things are proceeding as they kind of should, where it's like you're not gonna necessarily rush to push something through, but the right amount of attention is coming about. It's almost as if Bitcoin being hard to change requires overwhelming consensus, and as overwhelming consensus becomes that, ooh, this is actually an issue, then it would change. So anyways, Joey, I'm curious.
Agree. Yeah, I agree with Walker almost 100%. I think he's right about a lot of stuff there, and I think, yeah.
Can I get that again, just for the record?
Yeah, let me say it a little louder. I'm with you 100%. I really am like frustrated by the demonization of Nick over this. Like, it's so easy for people who have done literally nothing but yap and tweet to get on this guy's ass about the star rising thing. It's a funny meme. But like, to the point you guys were making earlier, he's been an advocate for Bitcoin. Him investing in quantum is no different than Saylor investing in Bitcoin and telling everyone to sell their house and take a second mortgage to buy Bitcoin. In fact, it's probably more responsible what Nick is doing than what Mike is doing.
I don't know though, because you're playing on people's feed, right? It's the feed and greed are the most common drivers, and you're going right into the one that's susceptible, the one that got Luke Gromen to sell his coins. One thing is killing our sentiment right now. I disagree with that. I think he's purposely fear mongering, which slows adoption. At least Saylor, if he's out there pumping his own bags, he is pushing Bitcoin forward, not trying to hold it back.
Nick
is
also
rebought though. He kind of sold it at a nice time. Just saying, shout out to Luke. Like, he timed that super well.
Nick is also very, very, very publicly saying he's not selling. Now, there's a couple of things that we have to think about. in terms of like the quantum timeline, okay? And this is not an easy thing to figure out. Like, I mean, we're a bunch of 80 IQ guys bullshitting about starting a corporation to get together on the weekends, right? Like we don't know what we're talking about more than anyone else or less than anyone else, but we have been around. Okay, we have been around. We've seen what development cycles look like in Bitcoin. We saw Taproot. Okay, that was an interesting kind of, I think, forced, maybe not forced, but it was a little hasty, I think, and we're seeing part of the reason why people were against that now. But there's some things that you have to consider when it comes to how quickly we do this. And the big one that I don't hear people talking about, two of them really. One is the sort of predictive power of some of the guys who are doing this research. So yeah, this guy who looks like he's been touching too many paper receipts, right? High estrogen levels in this fella. Yeah, he does work for the Ethereum Foundation, but Stanford and Google are on that paper too. Like that's a lot of firepower. You know, Google has no vested interest in upending the Bitcoin network. The reason I think, by the way, that people talk about the Bitcoin network as the primary target of quantum fairly often, and not banks or, you know, airlines or nuclear weapons. I think the reason they do that is because of the Satoshi coins. The Satoshi coins are the unofficial quantum bounty. And I think people realize that those coins are not going to move. They are exposed, and whoever crosses the finish line first is going to get them. And the only thing I disagree with Walker on is that price volatility will be minimal when they get seized, because it'll be so clear that this is coming that everyone will just be watching to see who gets them. They won't be worried about them moving. The second piece is in the same vein when it comes to the time crunch we're in. At about 30% of the coins, let's say 35% of the coins, you know, it's about $500 billion, maybe a little less than that, I guess, today's pricing in value that needs to move to quantum proof addresses. That's 7 months of full blocks just for those transactions. So what is the plan once we realize that this thing is less than a year away to get 7 months of transactions, full blocks, just quantum protection transactions through the network? It's going to be very difficult, number one. And number two, that's really an attack vector for people who want Bitcoin to fail. Because if everyone starts loading those blocks with nonsense because they want to see this thing die, that's really going to cause problems for us as holders and for the network more broadly. So, you know, Bitcoin has to act in a time of uncertainty, probably for the first time ever. Taproot, there was no real urgency. We didn't really, you know, we weren't unsure that it was going to break the network or anything like that. We took our time, and we, you know, maybe, like I said earlier, we're a little hasty, but there was no real rush. And we were fairly certain that there was not going to be a problem on the other end. This time, we have to act in a time of uncertainty where we're not 100% sure of the date. Because if we don't, the alternative is that we don't give ourselves enough time to act. I don't think anyone thinks that this is not going to be a problem at some point. And so the question is, why don't we just do something about it now before it's urgent, as opposed to trying to upend the thing that really makes Bitcoin what it is, this difficulty in making changes, the stability of the network. Ethereum is obviously going to say, look, we've already done this. I'm with Walker on that, and I think you guys agree. That's actually a negative point, that you've been able to do this so quickly without any consultation, without anyone saying anything about it. And by the way, nobody even fucking knows.
No, they're just looking for a new narrative. They're just looking for a new narrative.
They did it, right? So like, I think this is good for us, but it's also a bit of a test of our mettle and a bit of a test of our willingness to look at each other and maybe look past some of the high priests of Bitcoin who have down-talked this very publicly for a very long time. They were going to wind up being wrong about this.
I got some pushback on that, but before I do, I'm going to let Brandon jump in there, and I want to get his thoughts first.
Yeah, in a long enough time horizon, of course, they will be wrong, right? And I think this is the nuance of Bitcoin, and the memes cut both ways. We've talked about this before, but the memes are great for no-coiners, people just coming into Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin fixes this, get off zero, never sell your Bitcoin, on and on and on, right? But once you get into Bitcoin, it becomes a different world, actually, right? Like memes are good for the people coming in, and then you have to kind of change your thought once you're in Bitcoin. So first off, though, before I go on for another minute here, I'm just super curious, Walker, how his connection and his sound is fucking better than mine, and he's in the middle of Timbuktu. So
it's all fake. The voice is fake. The background's fake. None of it is real.
This is
Everything
unbelievable.
is fake, boys. Everything's fake.
I'm being quantum as we speak. Yeah, this is unbelievable. Quantum
I cracked
solace,
quantum on
apparently.
the river. That's all it took, was catching a few steelheads.
This is just wild to me. I mean, the guy's audio is perfect, everything. I mean, my goodness. You know, and then saying that, I thought we were going to have to invest in Nick's Catalina wine mixer fund or whatever that is, whatever he's got going on. So I was ready to pony up, boys. Like, I was ready. I really was. But, you know, in all seriousness, no, I mean, Bitcoiners are incentivized to make sure things are good at the end of the day. Like, I'm going to take my licks with the Bitcoin ecosystem, the people, the economic actors that are incentivized to actually uphold the integrity of the system, Nick being one of those people, obviously, and all of us, and seeing the forest from the trees zooming out. I'm never going to put my time and energy in this legacy system. There's zero incentive for these people to make sure I'm not rug pulled. Absolutely zero. They will just say sorry to you. They'll bail you in. They'll bail you out. And then they'll paper over it, stealing your time and energy through inflation. And that's it. And so kind of what you guys are saying earlier, I'm going to take my bets on that side, on the Bitcoin side. And yes, is it a threat? Like you guys are saying, it is on a long enough time horizon, but there's people working on it already. And I think what I started with the meme thing, like some of it, I get pissed off, admittedly, initially when I hear stuff like this, because it scares the living daylights out of the random person, the average person, the people that we're talking to on a daily basis, the people that are coming in and being like, oh, what the hell, the moms, the dads. I mean, shoot, the institutional funds, you know, like all these different people that are looking at it, they're like, well, what about this? What about that? So that's the thing. But again, this is just part of the process of it taking time. Time converts more than reason. You know, are there incentives? Yeah, follow the incentives. Obviously, follow the money analysis with Nick or the Ethereum Foundation. There's different incentives. Everyone has different incentives. So it makes sense, but this is just all part of the process. Zoom out, so forest from the trees type of thing, and don't overcomplicate it. You know, people are working on it at the end of the day, and use the higher faculties. You know, Bitcoin is an intuition game more really than it is some, you know, mathematical or whatever. Like, it's just zooming out and making things. Someone mentioned 80 IQ pleb earlier, and that's really what it is. I mean, you can go to school for 12 years, 15 years, 18 years, and you can never see Bitcoin. Most never will. They've been so brainwashed by the legacy system. They will be the sludge people that are on UBI and government assistance the rest of their lives. We've seen with the No Kings protests and all kinds of different people all around the world, the political actors, financial actors, the Steve Hanke's, the Peter, you know, like these people are screwed. They're done. Absolutely, you know, finito. So it's just zoom out at the end of the day. Two things can be true. Yes, is it a threat in the long term? Of course it is. But are people working on it? And we'll be good. Bitcoiners are good at the slow train wreck, figuring out the slow train wreck. That's what we're great at. We're figuring it out. We're already doing it. I'll tell you, the legacy system, it's going to zero. It's the Titanic going 12,000 feet under. There's no chance in that system. So you better take your chances in this one.
Can we address this guy in the chat here? The kid 580 retarded. Like the point is not that the point is not that it's expensive to carry out. The point is not that you don't know what it's going to net. The point is not that there's no threat. There is a threat. The only question is the timeline. Mm-hmm. And so like there's no point in engaging with people online who say there's no threat. I'm not going to worry about it. I refuse to even give this any time or bandwidth. Well, the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter if you give it bandwidth because you're fucking 20 IQ anyway. But what I do want to see is productive discussion.
20 IQ, man. That's like
if okay,
Joey,
you know, he's
no
probably
threat.
Maybe this guy's got higher. He's got higher BMI than he does IQ, more digits than IQ points. Whatever. You pick your analogy. But I would just say that this whole thing is exposing so many people in Bitcoin who just have no idea about like simple patterns, simple trends. Like if you've ever used an AI product, okay, how fast did that thing go from Will Smith looking like, you know, an acid fever dream eating spaghetti to running your business autonomously on your computer? It took like 3 years.
Yeah, but that was software as well too. But that wasn't hardware breakthroughs based on theoretical and so controlled. So no, I got to push back on this.
That is a retail facing product. If you think government and Google and all these other guys don't have something with a little more horsepower behind the curtain, I don't know what to tell you.
But they still have physical. It's still expensive physical constraints on what they can actually do. Like we're only but the hardware is not necessarily going to grow at the same rate. We've seen like Moore's law kind of basically coming down. AI is kind of saving us in that regard, but it's still software and algorithm and models.
Is this a Moore's Law is Dead podcast? Are we Moore's Law is Dead enjoyers?
I think we're pretty much close to that. You do hit a physical restraint on like how small you can actually make the transistors. But regardless, so let's take a look at it for just 1 second here. Okay, we need need like the 500,000 physical qubits. We're currently sitting around like 6,100. Okay, I don't think these things are going to be necessarily, it could be logarithmic, exponential, or linear. I'm not sure, but it's probably not necessarily linear. But regardless, like even in terms of the threat to the current ecosystem, one of the things that's a fun little heuristic to play around with, like Coinbase was involved with this research, if I'm not mistaken, right? All the same people who are out here telling me that global warming is going to take over the world, that the oceans are going to rise, it's all going to fall to shit. We're buying up beachfront property. Might have been a hint that they weren't worried about it and they should have had better information than we had. Coinbase is fucking reusing addresses. They could not do that today. If they were concerned about porting all their stuff over, they would have already done that. We have everything we need to deal with quantum. Don't reuse addresses. Don't use Taproot. Get off legacy. You talked about like the 7 months of moving as well too. The same thing applies to taking them. How many UTXOs is that? How much work goes into one? What's the return for that one UTXO? There may be some high value ROI, but I bet you the value return and what the input cost of using that computing goes down pretty fucking quick.
We don't know. But what we do know is that it's a risk that we don't have to take.
But you're right.
You don't have to take it. Why would we take the risk?
Correct. You don't have to. And that's what I'm saying is you don't have to right now. So anyone that doesn't make the simple, just go SegWit. Just SegWit and don't reuse addresses. And you're in the clear.
SegWit
if you're not going to do that now, you're probably not going to do that later. We're already pushing for best practices. I had a wonderful conversation with some of the guys that are directly working on BIP 360, which is the Pater Merkle route that Walker mentioned earlier, which I actually think has a really good chance of getting through. It's a very simple BIP protocol.
Beast guy, or is that
Hunter Beast is one of the lead guys on it. I was talking to somebody else involved with it, but essentially all it is within Taproot, you've got two spending paths, right? There's key path spend and script path spend.
Yeah.
I think its script path spend is totally fine. There's no issues there. The public key is only exposed on the key path spend, which is the more convenient. I think might be the cheaper one as well too. We can just rip that out. Put this thing back up there and continue onwards, right? So is it coming eventually? Yes, but I don't give a shit about things that are coming eventually. There's enough for us to deal with right now. If this is a decade off, it's still far enough in the horizon that
what's the bigger concern right now?
Be return to regulatory oversight. So we have a new administration coming into the U.S. to be the attacks on privacy, the attacks on self-custody from the government standpoint. I think these are the biggest things. I think
for the devs, Nathan, for the devs. That community is not concerned. It seems to me.
I would argue that probably
the biggest threat to Bitcoin right now, guys. Sorry, but the biggest threat to Bitcoin is if BIP 110.
Fuck off.
Bitcoin is dead. Luke said it, guys.
Who are you being funded by? Aren't you and Ben getting funded?
Dude, no, you guys missed it. Jameson and Luke, truce, man. We're all good. You guys didn't see that today?
I go out to fish for a couple of days, and there's a truce now. This is
Walker's funding goes out the window.
You don't have to worry about them starting the most handsome podcast. I'll tell you that.
Okay, hang on.
They're all guys drilling Joey.
Let me pivot for 1 second here, and it's not to BIP 110.
We all are.
I think one of the biggest.
Joke,
I know. One of the biggest.
It's not a threat at all.
Okay, I actually think spam mitigation is a real problem. There are some good proposals out there, but we'll talk about that another time.
It's
one of the bigger questions, I think, actually the one that would worry me if quantum, like Joey, let's say I'm wrong, the timeline speeds up, we do get some major breakthrough here, right? Is the question around what to do with legacy coins. I forget the name of it. I was trying to find it earlier, but there are proposals to basically rate limit the exposed addresses to like 1 Bitcoin per block is all that could go through. That is a hard, firm no for me.
Same.
Like you could maybe make a justification that like if it came from one of the earlier blocks and had like the 50 coins reward, like maybe rate limiting at 50, but like still, I think that's just ridiculous.
But that is the proposal for the rate limit, is to only rate limit the quantum vulnerable coins.
Yeah,
correct. But they were saying at an amount of 1 Bitcoin per transaction.
I still don't want to see that.
Regardless,
right.
I am a hard, firm no on that. No restrictions on moving UTXOs, regardless. We're talking about it right now. You could go to SegWit right now. If you're not dealing with it even in this moment, I assume that they are just outright lost. And from like the ethical standpoint, I view this very much like treasure hunters finding buried gold on the bottom of the ocean, right? As finding a sunken ship and recovering it. There is no new issuance here. There is no stealing of private property here. These were in fact lost, and somebody found the technology, the gear to dive down and recover them. Will it nuke the price in the meantime? To Joey's point, I think it was earlier, I actually don't think so. Because I don't think, it's not like someone's going to get all the legacy Bitcoin in one go and then sell it all for USD. They worked that hard to get Bitcoin, and you think they're just going to fucking sell it immediately after getting it? They actually might want the gold in that analogy there. They might actually hang on to it. So we don't know it's actually going to be liquidated. Will the market freak out at that point in time? I guarantee it. Because even that far in the future, even if it's like 20 years off, the information is still going to be asymmetrical and probably in our favor. But these proposals for UTXO rate limiting, freezing, that's a hard outright no for me. But I want to get your guys' take. Let's start with Brandon.
Yeah, no, I mean, really quick, I was just going to say it would be an interesting exercise if it does happen. Someone made this point the other day of what coins are actually lost, right? Like because if you're an economic actor in the system, you're going to be plugged in, right? You're talking to people, you're going to meetups, you're watching podcasts, you're studying shit, you're super plugged in. If you had coins from that long ago, I mean, you're up there, right? Like you're someone that's absolutely plugged in, and you have an economic incentive to actually see what's going on. So yes, have people passed away or things going on where they are just locked up, they're lost theoretically? Well, we're going to find out in the coming years what's actually lost, which is going to be a really fascinating exercise to see, because that's something we've all wondered for a long time. How much is lost, who really has the coins, etc. There might be some shuffling around. So to me, that's going to be very interesting because if you're in the system and you are alive and you are plugged in, guess what? You're going to be wanting to move your coins somewhere else, obviously, if this is a real threat. And that's going to tell us a lot of what we need to know as time moves forward.
Beautiful. Ben, your thoughts? And then Joey Walker, we'll get your takes as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just kind of zooming out on the whole situation here, again, I think that the contention here that we're seeing is all part of the process, right? Like the Bitcoin by design, it's supposed to be difficult to change. And so these are kind of like the in my opinion, kind of these early innings of like, fuck, like maybe we got to start looking at some stuff. And like it's starting to become part of the conversation. And so that doesn't mean that nothing is being done. It means there are people that are working on solutions right now and beginning to put things together to then present to anybody in Bitcoin to then decide if, okay, what proposal makes sense? What is the most responsible path forward for something like this if we see it as a legitimate threat? And so, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not particularly worried because I see work being done, because I see, I think you're right. Like the market could tank as soon as, the first coins ever move based on this threat. At least
probably not as hard as after Michael Saylor's coins were for the first time identified.
You better have a nice dry powder stack for Mike's first sell. Let me tell you, that's going to be a good day.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, if you understand, and there was a question earlier in the chat, like what addresses are best to be in, and Nathan, you already said it, but SegWit addresses, the ones that start with BC1Q. Yeah. If you look in your wallet and your addresses start with BC1Q, you're probably good. As long as it's not a single receive address. What I will say, and I hate to kind of like harp on them again, but that fucking Rumble wallet, it's a single receive address. And if you've ever spent out of that address and this comes to fruition, so like there may be artists on there that just kind of let that stack for a while. And then like years down the line, it's like, oh, all my Bitcoin is sitting in this hot wallet, which is bad enough. But like, and all my tiny UTXOs that are now dust and unspendable. But then also if it's still a single address and you've ever spent out of it, then it's fucking gone. So, but again, like the barrier to, again, like there's a lot of compute that goes into going after a single address. So the first coins that are going to go quite obviously are Satoshi's coins. But then it's a trickle down from there. So, if you're protecting your $200 stack and you're worrying about quantum coming for you, don't worry. There will be plenty of canaries in the coal mine long before, your $200 UTXO goes out the window. So you will have ironically, the people with the least self-custody Bitcoin will have the most time to prepare. So that's a bonus.
Joey, your quick thoughts, and then Walker.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I wasn't listening to Ben. I was ripping on some kid in the chat again. Listen, the quantum thing. Like, I'll just say this, okay? I'm directing all my comments to this guy, Kid 180 or whatever his name is in the chat.
Fucking coming for you.
You have to dispatch with your high priest of Bitcoin or infallible. You cannot think this way anymore. Okay. Andreas Antonopoulos, God bless him, did a lot of good work. Also decided to write Mastering Ethereum. If you listen to some of the old Andreas podcasts, Very, very good. Heavy Bitcoin stuff. Wasn't as dense Bitcoin as it should have been probably before he decided to pack that podcast in. Guys like Jameson Lopp, okay? Privacy expert, Mr. Off the Grid. Famously, around the same time Trace Mayer did it, shilling Grin coin at Bitcoin conferences, okay? Tried to get people off of Bitcoin. The reason you don't know this, apart from the whole BMI being greater than IQ thing for you, is that you haven't thought about the fact that these guys could be not quite the high priests that you think they are, right? Bitcoin has this Vatican of cardinals and wizards, and they're not all geniuses, man, okay? A lot of these guys were right one time between 2008 and 2012. They didn't do anything with it except buy Bitcoin. And then when people joined the space, they decided to radiate to these people. There was no podcast. There was no Marty and Matt. There was no Ben Perrin. Okay. There was no Bitcast. There was nothing. It was only these guys. And so they built these huge followings on the back of nothing but thinking about sound money and knowing how to get to the Bitcoin talk forums. This is not enough for you to base the future of your wealth on and the opinions you have about the network on which you will rely to retire your bloodline. Okay. You can't do this. You have to think for yourself. Everyone's got to think for themselves. Once you start doing this, you'll realize these guys make mistakes all the time, just like we do, by the way. Okay.
Yep.
We're not fucking perfect, but goddamn, man, if I see one more time people say you need to study Andreas, you don't think I've watched the fucking videos, bro? I've been here a decade. What do you think? What do you think I did when I got here? What do you think? There was no
started lifting weights and eating steak is what I think.
There was no steak and weights in Bitcoin when I started. Oh my God. It was like
those were invented after Bitcoin, actually.
It was a different fucking place. And I just like, it bothers me so much. These guys are
Joey,
like, oh,
man, I completely agree.
The elders. What are you talking about, bro?
And to your point, we may be wrong, but we're never lying. Now, Walker, besides saying don't trust, verify, is there anything in this that really maybe pisses you off or something you want to say?
Boy, I don't know. Joey just is like just being a little Canadian whiny baby over here. No offense to the other Canadians in the audience, but I don't know, guys. Don't reuse addresses. Keep creating value for the world and try to convert that into Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be fine. Bitcoin will adapt. There are multiple proposals on the table. With regard, I believe that was actually the specific question that was asked before Joey decided to go on his little panty twisted tirade there. But nothing new under the sun when it comes to Joey. But you know, I believe the actual question that was asked was, what about these different proposals? Do we rate limit? Do we do nothing? Do we completely freeze those coins? I think that completely freezing them is like, should be off the table, but it's not going to be. It's going to be on the table. What you actually have to think about is the economic actors who have the majority of the coins. Now, having the majority of the coins doesn't mean you control Bitcoin, but it does control what happens in the event of a hard fork, because they will move, they will sell the fork they do not want. You need to think about what those economic actors are going to rationally do and which option they would prefer. I think probably the BlackRocks, the Michael Saylors, I don't know this. I'm not trying to put words in anyone's mouth. I'm just guessing, like working through this. They will probably prefer some sort of a rate limiting because it's more palatable than a full freeze of those coins, which would be very unpalatable. Rate limiting those specific coins in terms of their, their distribution would be more palatable. Still not palatable to many, but more palatable. I think that's probably the likely avenue that those entities push. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it, but you should think about what the reasonable outcome of this will be. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe they say, fuck it, let them all come to the market. I want some more cheap sats. Could be the case. But just think through it and think what each of these economic actors is actually going to reasonably want to do.
Agreed.
That's all I got.
Think about what you would want to and why, right? Ben? I think Ben was getting in the chat there for a little bit.
The chat is actually fucking
Gerald did not agree.
Oh my God. Somebody just said study Richard Hart. Holy crap. If you think Richard Hart is an excellent source of quality information, I mean, I'm so sorry about the loss of your net worth.
Where is he hiding in the world right now? Because I'm pretty sure he's gotten to the ground.
Didn't he get picked up? I thought he got picked up.
They're after, but I don't think they grabbed him yet.
No, I think he's got, he should be easy enough to spot high BMI dude draped in fucking Versace, Louis Vuitton, everything.
Isn't what's the big boy isn't he in prison? The guy with the
BitBoy Crypto.
BitBoy. Yeah. He's in prison, isn't he?
Big boy.
Big boy.
Don't do crypto.
I meant
kids. It's
Bit
bad
Boy.
for you.
Bit Boy, damn it.
Yeah.
Not Big Boy.
May as well be.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't have much else to add. Like it's keep your eyes on the new developments as they happen. The best thing that you can do right now is be in a wallet that doesn't reuse addresses and uses SegWit. And with that, like, you're pretty much good. Just don't send back to the same addresses. Any good wallet will automate these best practices for you anyways. So you're probably fine. Where you might not be fine is if you're watching this, you're in the audience, and you deal with a wallet that is a multi-coin wallet that has a whole bunch of support for like hundreds of different coins. These wallets do not prioritize best Bitcoin practices. And I would not be surprised, and I know for a fact that some of them do just give you a single address. So if you're sitting in an altcoin wallet, yes, be worried. Look at your address and see if it's just one.
And look at your life. Also.
Yeah. and one thing that
look
you
in
can
the
do,
mirror, honestly, actually look at yourself.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If one thing that you can do, if you don't know if it's creating a new address every time, one, send some Bitcoin to the wallet and see if a new one is created. But if you want to double check, grab the address, the next receiving address, head over to mempool.space. That's a website. And then just search the next address in your wallet and see if it has a big history of a bunch of transactions. Because if it does, yeah, your wallet is giving you one address. But if you're using a good wallet, then you're fine. You're on a cold card, you're using Bull Bitcoin wallet, whatever it may be. All of those wallets are going to give you a new address. And every time you go to spend, it's going to give you the change back into a brand new address. These are all standard best practice things. If your wallet doesn't do it, it's a crappy wallet and you need to move. So I'll end it there. We're going to come back after the break. There is a bunch of stuff going on.
Adam Back is replying to your show post, by the way. Betteridge's law applies. No. Send him the stream link. Let's fucking paste that old man. It's time.
Seriously.
Get him in here.
Let's yeah.
Sure be better than American HODLHODL, am I right?
That's super funny. I should message him, see if he'll pop in.
Do it over the break.
Nonetheless, yeah. On the other side of the break, there is a bunch of stuff. Iran, again, they just penned a letter to the American people, but Trump has some big announcement tonight. People are saying ceasefire. I don't know, bait and switch. We'll see. Either way, we're gonna see that on the other side of the break. As a reminder, we're talking about these wallets and all this stuff, and like, are you secure and all that. If you do need a little bit of extra help securing your stuff, make sure you check out, you can reach out to myself and Nathan over at btcmentor.io, and we can do one-on-one help for you, making sure you're all set up. And you can also just peruse the free tutorials on the channel as well. Either way, we'll be back in a minute. See you guys soon. Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC Sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions. CoinKite has been in the game for years, creating hands down the best and most secure hardware when it comes to securing your Bitcoin. The Cold Card Q is an absolute powerhouse and my daily driver, and it's ideal for newcomers and advanced users alike. The Tap Signer gives you a low-cost, user-friendly option for those just getting started or for convenience when traveling. You can head to coinkite.com and use code BTC Sessions for discounts, or simply scan the QR code on the screen to get started right away. One company I like pointing people to when they ask about Bitcoin mining is Abundant Mines. They were founded by Bo and Christine Turner after losing over $500,000 to broken promises in the mining industry. And they built their hosting model to remove the usual headaches. With Abundant Mines, you own your machines and keep 100% of the Bitcoin you mine. There's no revenue share, no hidden skims. Pricing is simple. One flat monthly fee covers power, parts, labor, and repairs. They also guarantee uptime. If a machine goes down, their hash rate redirect system routes hash power from their fleet so earnings don't just stop, and every machine is insured at full replacement value. Everything is hosted in the US, powered by Hydro, and mining equipment may qualify for 100% year one bonus depreciation. Learn more at abundantmines.com/sessions. All right, back in, and yeah, gents, a bunch of stuff going on here. I'm going to, yeah, I mean, everybody's kind of tossing around this, whatever this Trump announcement is going to be. And it's, yeah, important announcement, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So we got a few hours here. But Iran did drop an open letter to the American public. Nathan, I know you gave it a little read through and kind of got a decent read on it. I mean, we were talking about it. It seems like not much there, but do you want to give us a little rehash on what went down with that?
No, it was very statesman-like. It was very much a kind of a plea directed to the American people. It wasn't really couched in like political talk. I think it was more or less saying like, hey, like we don't harbor ill will towards America. We have a kind of, I think it was an attempt to try and show shared values. My read on it was very much so of like them trying to humanize themselves a little bit, as well as kind of give the out. Like we're kind of be like, we're not the villain you necessarily think that we are. We are open to peace. We're open to this kind of being done. We were not the aggressor in the situation. So I think it was an appeal to, almost like an appeal to empathy for them as well. But it felt like a very strategic kind of mirror to the kind of death to America chance that you might see in some things as well too. Like very much actively trying to be like, hey, we can work this out. We can maybe work this out. Maybe we can settle this. Maybe we can improve things here. So I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was, nothing too groundbreaking in terms of new information, but leading up to, the ceasefire rumors that we might hear from Trump later today, I thought it was very important kind of setting the table. I'd be curious to get the Americans' opinion on this.
Same.
Yeah, I'll just bet you would.
I know a guy who's really, I know a guy on this podcast who's really well versed in old Civil War and whatnot stories and tales. I'd like to hear his take.
Brandon, that's you.
Is that me?
I was like, I don't think that's me.
I'm more of a Revolutionary War.
I didn't know which way I was going to go. I was
Wait,
looking at
wait,
Walker.
wait.
I was like, is like Walker about to bust out a Civil
Damn it,
War
Walker.
kill?
I think
It's
we've
those
done
Canadians
5.
that mixing up Civil War, Revolutionary War. They think they're the
We've done
same
5
thing.
episodes
And
of this
honestly,
show,
it's
and
racist.
everyone.
It's
Have you guys had more than one war? Is that my understanding? Yeah, I may misunderstand this.
Hey, newsflash, we haven't had a war since World
you
War
guys saw
II.
the king. We
Officially.
threw that guy off.
They still have Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Is she
It might be
gone?
confusing. Yeah.
Is she gone?
No, it's Charles, and she was a queen, dickhead.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
not that I
May
care.
she
I
rest
want her
in
off the
peace.
money. Get her off the money. No, actually, quickly, Brandon, then Walker. Let's get your take on this as well too, and just to kind of seed the ground a little bit, because one of the things that I am worried about in this moment is, and God, if it's 3 times in a row, like for the love of God, we've seen this. Like we're negotiating, they attack. Oh no, we're going to sit down and negotiate and run, and then we immediately attack. I do not trust that if they come out and say like we're talking about a ceasefire, that they're not going to just immediately blow something up after the fact. That this pattern's played out a little bit. Brandon, your thoughts, buddy?
That's been the last 2 negotiations, right?
Yeah.
Or at least it's happened twice now during negotiations in the last year or so. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm someone that could sit here and talk for hours about this because I can make arguments on all sides. I'm very riding the fence on it. I don't know. I can make the case that Trump's trying to break the city of London. I think that's a lot of, I believe that's a lot of what we're seeing. Tom Luongo's thesis, I know he's been making the rounds talking about this a lot for a long time, but it's hard to see it any other way. And do any of us like war? No, of course not. I mean, no one likes war. It's horrible. At the same time, it's the Jason Lowry thesis of real power versus abstract power. And like it, love it, hate it, whatever. I mean, the city of London, the British Crown has been running things for hundreds of years. And there's seemingly this real disdain from the Trump family against the city of London. And I think a lot of Americans, a lot of people, Bitcoiners know this a little bit better than most people, but most people are just completely oblivious to that fact that when we fought the British, and I'm saying Canadians and Americans, I mean, really, at the end of the day, the Americas have fought the British multiple times, the War of 1812. I mean, it's just happened multiple times. Physical kinetic war, and then we had the banks. This is the 3rd central bank in America that we've had. This is all the city of London is doing, and so it's hard not to see it from that lens, and just from a Bitcoiner perspective of follow the money analysis, right? And so just following the money, follow the incentives will show you the outcome. That's a lot of what it is. It's energy, money. These are the things. It's not like, oh, you know, is Netanyahu getting off on America and he's using America? Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it too. But it's like 100 things can be true, right? Like 10 different countries, 15, they're all getting what they want. Is the city of London being broken seemingly? Yeah, a lot of Europe. I mean, you see the things coming out of Europe of like their state of emergencies and energy issues. Yeah, that was the point. You know, U.S. is saying, hey, guess what? Newsflash, you guys have to come in and do your own battles from now on. NATO, he did talk about this in the first term. He's talked about this for 40 years. You know, so that the thing I don't understand, I guess, is that I empathize with like, hey, we got to follow the Constitution. We have to do things like that. But that world doesn't exist anymore. If no one's going to follow, if you have activist judges everywhere for decades doing whatever the hell they want, and international law is completely fake, and no one's following the Constitution, we've just been going along this thing the entire time, playing this fake narrative run by generally the city of London, the banking cartels. Trump just coming in and saying, F off, I'm not playing those games anymore. And people are having a hard time with it because it's change at the end of the day. Humans hate change. They love routine. We all do. And we're path of least resistance. I mean, it's just classic Bitcoiner, kind of like the quantum thing. And I think Ben said this earlier. It just zoom out and just see the forest and the trees. This is 80 IQ stuff. It's very simplistic. And we want to get into these emotional things left and right. I got it. We hate war. We should vote for the thing, but it's hard to, you know, preemptively attack someone. Yes, I said it, preemptively attack someone when you're voting for it a day or two before. It's kind of hard to do that. And the ends justify the means for, you know, these guys' perspective and what they're trying to do. I'm not the one doing it. I couldn't do it myself. That's why I'm not in that position. You know, so it just is what it is. You have to accept it, but you have to kind of look at it for what it is.
Now, Walker, I want to get your take on it. How do you feel about the system? Any thoughts on this and the upcoming announcement from Trump? And then I got a question for Joey.
Well, I don't know. I think I support the Persian people. I don't really support much of the Iranian regime. I don't know. Look, guys, I think it's important to remember that two things can be true at once, right? Very much like with Maduro in Venezuela. Is it questionable and like, is it okay for you to have objections to the U.S. going in and instituting regime change? Absolutely. Do we have tons of evidence, not even from like ancient history, very recent history, of U.S. regime change wars not always playing out in the long term in the best interests of like anyone and us actually creating a power vacuum that something worse fills? Absolutely. At the same time, it can be true that in the instance of Maduro, for example, that was a bad hombre. You know, he was a bad hombre. He was a bad hombre. Every Venezuelan, well, not every, because there's always going to be party loyalists, but the majority of Venezuelans rejoiced at Maduro being taken out, right? Same thing with the Ayatollahs, same thing with the Iranian regime. The majority of Persians rejoiced at them being taken out. People seem to have forgotten that like literally right before we started Israel, and then we started striking Iran, there were mass protests in the streets. The Iranian regime had killed, by most estimates, tens of thousands of protesters who were protesting the regime. They're also undergoing hyperinflation, have been for some time, right? So like two things can be true at once. It can be, you know, you can have doubts, have questions, have objections to the US's military presence and actions in various countries, and you should rightly question your government, especially when they're spending your tax dollars to do things in foreign lands, when we have veterans that are homeless on the streets of America. By the same token, it can also, at that same time, you can say, well, you know what? Like, the Iranian regime is fucking terrible. They're bad people who do horrible, horrible things, murder their citizens, subjugate their citizens, subject their women especially to truly absurd draconian laws. Like, but both things can be true. I think we've gotten to this point where because everything is so hyper partisan, hyper politicized, it has to be red or blue. Everyone says, well, because this president did this, I have to be against it because I'm on the other team, and vice versa. Like, this goes both ways. You should just be critical of the state, period. But you shouldn't just be critical of our state, the United States. We're still the skinniest kid at fat camp. Like, you think the US is bad? Then why didn't you go live in Iran? Well, go immigrate to Iran, you know? Like, you think the US is bad? Go try living in a communist country.
Canada.
Like, go try living in Canada. I don't know how you guys do it.
God forbid.
My point is, and I'll end here, just that multiple things, more than two things can be true at once. be critical of your government. Question your government, question how they spend your money, how they deploy bombs and where they drop them, but also be honest about the types of regimes that they may be toppling. Again, I'm not saying regime change is good, but I'm saying you should at least be honest with yourself about the fact that very, very, very bad people were doing very, very, very bad things in these countries. And they probably still will. And maybe worse people fill that slot. But like, hold those two ideas in your head at the same time. And if you can do that, you'll be okay.
So I do want to point out one, just that Brandon's earlier point regarding energy. I want to share this, and Walker, those were all fantastic points. I disagree with a little bit, but not too much there, so I'll let it be.
Well, you're Canadian, so I would expect
it's going to
less.
naturally happen. This from Political Europe. Breaking, the European Commission has urged people to work from home, drive, and fly less, and for EU countries to urgently roll out renewables. That'll help, as it's warranted prolonged energy crisis as a result of the Gulf conflict in the Gulf. So we've seen a bunch of energy shortages, energy restrictions, all this stuff kind of going on there. Seems like they want to put back some of those COVID mandates. But the thing that I want to toss to you, Joey, that I was thinking about today is, let's say that there's a ceasefire, that we get this thing wrapped up today, like it's just done today. Is the economic damage that has already happened from the delays, from the kind of like backlog and supply chains, the energy disruption that we've already had, is it already sufficient to actually cause problems for, like, we'll say, the U.S. economy? Or do you think it's just back to business as it was beforehand?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. I want to point out that our American colleagues here, you know, when you talk about American military tradition, in Canada, we vilify that tradition, but I don't know any Canadians.
You guys have a military?
We don't have anything.
There are dozens of us.
This is the thing. The thing that Canadians miss, cute. I think a lot of Canadians miss, is that without a military tradition, I joke all the time that America, you know, when they invade your country, it's with three things: Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, and McDonald's, right? They don't need the missiles. and the thing about the missiles is that gives these guys really a much wider aperture. I think I'm using that term correctly, on global affairs, on criticism and critique of the government. You know, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys? And like Walker said, a lot of things can be true at one time, and it's up to you to kind of discern what's what. In Canada, and I think in a lot of European countries, because we've gotten away from military tradition, whatever military tradition, you know, those countries had, us included, you know, we haven't really been able to give. I think most Canadians are having a hard time giving an honest appraisal of what's going on in most of the world. Anytime you ask a Canadian about military tradition, it's about World War II. That was, you know, closing in now on 100 years ago, you know, and a lot of Canadians need to start thinking about this stuff, including our government. So I just want to give you guys kudos for that. In terms of the supply chain thing and economic damage.
Thank you, Joey.
You're very welcome, sir. Although we do have good fishing. If you ever want to move up here, I think you'd enjoy it. The thing I would say about the supply chain economics, I'm not an expert, but there are experts out there who are not convinced that this thing is going to be over quickly, even if the U.S. leaves. And it's really a sort of a multi-pronged problem. The strait there, you know, the whole global economy runs on this like little U-shaped curve halfway around the world because oil tankers want to go through there and can't. This was, you know, unknowable to the average person 5 years ago. And now if you get in an Uber or in line at the grocery store, the likelihood that, you know, Esther, as she's bagging your groceries, asks you about the Strait of Hormuz, I don't know, what is it, 50%? The odds are not bad. I think that the signal here is really that there probably is a problem coming. And we'll see what Trump says tonight about that. But I want to point you to one other indicator that I think you should be looking at more closely. And it's the Rubio-Vance index. Okay.
Ooh.
Rubio and Vance have one thing in common right now, and it's that they both want to be the president in 3 years. And the difference between these guys is pretty stark, and it's not immediately obvious, but it's going to start to become obvious as the numbers come out regarding their favorables. How many people think that this war is a good idea? How many people think that Rubio is a good guy in this equation? How many people think that Vance is a good guy in this equation? Rubio is already making statements on a microphone in front of a camera. He did, I think, like 4 or 5 hours ago, if memory serves, talking about what seemed to me to be a pretty vague description of the situation, something that could wind up with boots on the ground or a complete retreat. Yep. And Vance may do the same. He's actually, I think he was on one of the major news networks over the weekend talking about something similar. So the reason I want to bring these guys up is because you will know how bad things are going to get based on whether or not Rubio stays or goes. He's the Secretary of State, and he can leave anytime he wants to protect his chances of becoming the president in 28. Do you know who can't leave? JD Vance. So Vance is going to double down if things go sideways, because once things go far enough sideways, you need to win that war, at least in the eyes of the American people. And you know, many commentators are talking about how American wars are really wars of unity among the population and support among the population, as opposed to whether or not you can win militarily. It's going to be hard to convince the American population at, you know, $8 diesel or whatever it's going to be that this is a good idea. We're starting to see those pockets of increased fuel prices here. Obviously, Australia and the UK today, both prime ministers getting on TV and saying that things are going to get tough, but they're not going to join a war. Rory Johnston, big oil guy, energy guy on Twitter, and I think he works for one of the big banks. I forget which one, or worked for one of the big banks, saying that North America is, like, I guess today, 11 days away from the same pressures and fuel prices. I mean, I, for one, welcome the climate lockdowns. I have a PS5 Pro, and I will be enjoying the moments that I'm able to spend with my daughter on climate lockdowns, along with obviously playing video games and lifting weights, trying to keep up with Ben
podcasters
through nap time. Yeah, we'll be doing a lot more streams.
Do you lift?
The rumors are not true.
I just couldn't tell.
I
just couldn't tell.
Yeah,
isn't it supposed to make you bigger?
We'll be doing a lot more streams.
Is it ever in the body shop or just
maybe
PS5?
your weights work differently in Canada? I'm not sure.
So,
kilograms? Is that
yeah,
less?
things are different. It's a
how does
pounds
that work?
kilograms thing. That's a problem. I would just say that we are close to finding out how bad this is going to get, and there's a few things to look at. I think the big one people are not thinking about is whether or not Rubio stays on as Secretary of State. That's the thing to watch.
That's very interesting. I do want to point out, too, that article I pulled up from Zero Hedge there talking about boots on the ground speaks exactly to this. Basically, I think it was Iran was warning, has said United States is busy plotting a ground attack despite publicly engaging in diplomatic efforts aimed at finding a ceasefire.
So you know what's interesting, right? You got two major prime ministers today who would normally be involved in a conflict like this, especially the United Kingdom, saying that they're not going to put boots on the ground no matter how hairy things get. Why would Trump the same day go on TV at night? All the major networks in America are going to cover this. They're all interrupting their programming. This is already, established, to tell everyone that they're leaving the conflict. Does that not seem weird?
It is a little bit, and to your point there, Trump may pull out of paper tiger NATO after Starmer's stiff, straight support.
Interesting.
So in response to the UK saying we're not putting boots on the ground, Trump is saying, well, then fuck NATO, we're out. So it really could. That's my big worry. This could go one way or the other. I'd like to be the stupid peacenik hippie saying that, like, we're going, Walker, you were homeschooled, put your hand down.
It's for you guys. It's for the Canadians. They're such good rule followers.
I'm optimistic that we can get this rolled out. You were talking about Tom Luongo's thesis there. I actually saw Tom at the Cornerstone Forum there, which is a good thesis. There is a lot of arguments to his points there. I do side myself with kind of the layout.
This thesis just helped me. I've heard Tom a bit, but it's basically that
London the moves that we're making,
a lot of things, and they're trying to break the back of that power establishment. Do I have that right?
The long and short of it would be this screws over Europe, right? Okay. And it takes away power from them is the big go there. The Simon Dixon theory is that this kind of actually neuters and kind of brings down Iran, gets rid of IRGC hardliners. It brings down Israel's influence and potentially gets rid of Netanyahu as well too. Simon's theory is that basically it's the financial industrial complex is trying to actually get stability and peace in the region by getting the people who keep fighting out of the way. And if his theory is correct, we'd probably see something along the lines of China facilitating negotiations around the China summit coming up here, I think May 14th or 15th. So timelines are all kind of we got evidence more being laid out here. So I'm interested in which way this goes. But if we actually see an escalation, like I think at least Simon's theory is off the table and that actually sucks. Walker, you did have your hand up earlier. I would like to acknowledge you. Point of privilege, Walker.
Yo, that conference you guys had.
Dude, we're gonna cover that.
Are we talking
after.
about that? We are.
Yeah, we got to
Please,
touch on that after.
Joey had some. Yeah. I mean, his tweets were not that good, but he at least quoted and stuff.
I piggybacked off somebody to the tune of like 4,
no, it wasn't really original or funny, but you tried. But anyway, I just wanted to say I think it's really important for people to understand that the United Kingdom can't put boots on the ground there because they're too busy deploying all of those boots to arrest their own citizens for posting memes that make people have hurty feelings.
Hey, not anymore. Not anymore today.
I did see that.
They're not going to do it apparently.
They're not going to. They're not going to investigate legal online speech. That means
which like Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to clarify that they've been really busy in the UK making sure that grannies who post memes about Muslims get thrown in jail. So like their hands have been a little bit tied up, you know. Can't blame them.
This is, so I just want to pop in here with a theory I've been thinking about lately. I think one of the new qualifications for a president or prime minister has to be not only a Lincoln Douglas style debate where you have to debate for a couple hours straight and you have to argue the other person's point before that, right? That's the intellectual side. But I think the more important thing is I want to see you in the octagon with, maybe not a UFC person, but maybe your opponents. And I want to see you fight. And you should have to get in the octagon, take a punch. I want to see you take a punch. And that's something, if you're not going to be in the military, you're not going to serve in the military, then Keir Starmer, if anyone's ever seen him hit the heavy bag before, oh boy, that's a video you should probably go watch. That should tell you all you need to know about your leader. If you can't do that and you can't take a punch, and a man has been punched in the face before, you should not be leading a group of people.
There's a video of that?
Did we talk about this before, Brandon? That every
I think you and I did. I think you and I talked about this.
Every man needs to be punched in the face.
You got to be punched in the face.
Hard.
That's my theory.
Agreed.
And if you've never been punched in the face hard, like Joey, then you see the results. You end up just soft. Like every man needs that ego check of a fucking punch.
I'm posting thirst traps every day the rest of the week. That's it. I've had it. I will
Join the revolution.
I don't know what thirst traps have to do with this, Joey, but that's just
Ben,
weird.
What do we have in the next segment here?
yeah. We gotta get this. Actually, we just chatted about it. Well, number one, Walker, you of course are going to be treating us to another iteration of Retard of the Week. But honestly, I think whoever you pull up, I don't know, man. I feel like there's a room full of runner-up candidates that we're going to talk about afterwards, because we got to take a look at the NDP conference, because that shit was absolutely unhinged. But we'll get to both those things. I do want to say also, everybody in the room right here, in less than a month, in about 4 weeks, except for stupid Joey, we're all going to be down in Vegas, which is going to be.
Could Joey not get a visa? Would they not let him in? They were like, your T's too low.
I refuse. I'm not going.
To the United States. Yeah, I'll bet that's what it is, Joey.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see you guys down there. I think it's going to be a blast. Actually, we just kind of locked down. Myself and Nathan are going to be doing a series of different workshops. So actually educational content that you can come hands-on and actually learn some shit. This is the stuff that I wish all conferences were integrating. So I'm very happy to see them doing that this year. But anyways, if you want to come down, make sure you hit up, b.tc/conference. And if you need tickets still, then of course, BTC Sessions will get you 10% off as a code. But anyways, on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about Retard of the Week, and then we're going to talk about more Retards of the Week, because, man, we are overflowing. So we'll see you guys in just a sec. Drop a like on the video, and we'll be right back. If you're a homeowner and you want more Bitcoin, Horizon just opened a whole new door. Most of your wealth is locked in your house, growing a few % per year, while Bitcoin has historically grown far faster. Horizon lets you convert a portion of your home's future value directly into Bitcoin without taking a loan. No monthly payments, no interest, no term limits. You stay in your home and you fully control and custody your Bitcoin. There's no forced liquidation, no margin calls, and no income requirement. You unlock tax-free cash today, and Horizon simply receives an agreed-upon share of your home's future appreciation when you sell or refinance. Hundreds of homeowners are already doing this in over 21 states. So go to joinhorizon.com and see your Bitcoin potential in about 90 seconds. Turn your home into a personal Bitcoin treasury with Horizon. Securing your Bitcoin doesn't have to be complicated or invasive. With NUNCHUK's HONEYBADGER plan, you get state-of-the-art multisig with built-in inheritance planning and no KYC required. NUNCHUK is trusted by users to secure billions of dollars in Bitcoin. The HONEYBADGER plan offers 204 assisted multisig, guiding you step-by-step on mobile or desktop. It works seamlessly with hardware wallets like TapSigner, Coldcard, Jade, and plenty of others, so you're always in control. Plus, with non-KYC inheritance planning, you can ensure your Bitcoin goes to your loved ones. No private info needed. Take control of your Bitcoin today. Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen to check out the HONEYBADGER plan. DEBIFI is the best and easiest way to borrow against your Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. Funds are held in a multi-sig escrow where you hold a key, and the platform allows for excellent hardware like the Cold Card Mark IV and the Q. You have access to flexible conditions, the best rates, and institutional-grade liquidity. If you're looking to make use of your capital, don't sell your Bitcoin, borrow against it. You can head over to debify.com to check them out, or simply scan the QR code on the screen. All right, back in, and it's that time. It's that time of the week, and Walker, there's a clip here. I'm gonna play it through at 2x speed, so it's gonna be. It's a little bit quicker, and we'll be able to. Wow, he's going to sound like a friggin' chipmunk. But I'm going to play it through at a faster speed so that we can kind of get through it quick, and then I'm going to give you the floor because this is a good one. So I'll pull this up. This is a gentleman by the name of Hassan Piker, and he's on YouTube and everything. And this is him on CNN. He's talking about getting the SADs visiting Cuba. Let's hear what he had to say.
Paint us a picture of what it's like on the ground. What'd you see? When I first landed in Cuba, I was taken aback by how beautiful everything was. You got the 1950s cars, and it's a tropical island destination. But very quickly thereafter, as soon as we got into Havana, the main city area where people congregate, I couldn't believe the sights that I was seeing. It was very sad. You had homes that looked like they were bombed out. Our tour guide at the time said that this was somewhat of a product of hurricane season and how difficult it is to repair these buildings. And I already had known about the rolling blackouts, and I experienced them later in the day. And it was definitely unlike anything I've ever experienced before. Everything's pitch black. There aren't any traffic lights on. It's crazy, right? But I was taken aback. I was very sad by all the poverty that I saw, and then I was very angry. It was actually Ben Rhodes who told me that I would get very sad when I first went to Obama foreign policy advisor. Former Obama foreign policy advisor Ben Rhodes, who was formative in the previous normalization agreement with Cuba that Barack Obama had orchestrated, and he was right. It was very sad to see, but then it was very angering. It was very anger-inducing because I felt like there was a lot of potential on this island that we were just robbing the people of, and it's totally cruel and totally unnecessary. And it was part of the reason why I went to Cuba, because I've heard a lot about Cuban organizing, the Cuban government. I'd read a lot about it. Sure. I knew about the island's history of developing sovereignty, but I'd also heard about this blockade, right? And I wanted to figure out exactly how this blockade was harming people directly, and in many ways that are indirect, because the blockade itself is designed to be invisible. It's a system of sanctions. It's this bureaucratic nightmare that basically renders it impossible for the island to do regular commerce, just like any other country. Banks can't take out loans from any other banks, and you, as an American citizen, as a matter of fact, have a lot of restrictions on what you can and can't do, both on the island, or if you want to even send money. If you have relatives on the island, it's a very difficult process to directly send cash payments to your relatives as well. It's totally unnecessary. These rules are so arbitrary, and yet they're so damaging to everyone, to everyday Cuban existence.
So,
that guy's on TRT, by the way. So testosterone not the solution to all your problems. We're learning here tonight. Yeah.
I guess not.
Walker, tee us up. First of all, for those unfamiliar, make sure people know who this guy is and why this is so ironic.
So, I guess it's this guy, for those who don't know, Hassan Piker is a leftist commie streamer. Who somehow inexplicably, as Joey said, I guess not inexplicably, he's on TRT, I guess. Good for him. Apparently that doesn't fix communism. But he has a large following, right? He's also very vocal, he's an American, but very vocally anti-American. And the reason that Hassan Piker wins Retard of the Week is because you traveled to Cuba on this propaganda mission, right? You stayed at a 5-star hotel in Cuba, and when there were blackouts, it was the only building that still had power, right? Because that's what communism does. It doesn't actually make everyone equal. It just creates a different class of elites that have absolute power. What? But okay, I know it's shocking, right? But here's the thing. The reason why this is just and it seems he's on TV, and look at him. He's got a beard, and he's dressed well, and he must know what he's talking about, right?
His glasses look smarter.
Yeah, he's got glasses. He looks smarter. He's got a shock collar on his dog during his streams, whatever, But he blames America. He blames the blockade, the embargo, whatever, for Cuba's suffering. But it's you're looking around here. You're seeing a country in disrepair. You're seeing a country with rolling blackouts. And instead of looking at the political ideology that created that, i.e. communism, which has been there for 60 years, You say, no, it's America's fault. And it reminded me, there's this quote, there's a great book that's somewhat difficult to find. It's called The Totalitarian Temptation. It's by a French guy named Jean-Francois Revel. And he has this quote there, I'm paraphrasing, but it's essentially, one often wonders what would become of socialism if it did not have capitalism to support it. And this is exactly what we're seeing, right? This is exactly what we're seeing here. We're seeing what happens to socialism, communism, when capitalism is not there to support it. This is what you see in North Korea as well. It's what you see in any isolated communist country. Also, communism fails. Like, this is what I think pisses me off so much about this Hassan guy, is that, like, you are a pro-communist in the year 2026. It's not like you're a pro-communist in like the early 19th century, right? Where like, okay, you just didn't have a lot of information. Like you thought Karl Marx sounded smart or something, or, you know, you were financed by the US, you know, to have the Bolshevik Revolution, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter what it was, but you know, you can forgive somebody for being a commie back then, right? You can't forgive somebody for being a communist right now in this year. Because why? Well, because communism has killed hundreds of millions of people. It's killed hundreds of millions of people in the last 100 years. Communism was orders of magnitude worse than Nazism in terms of death toll. Communism, if you are espousing communism, like anyone who says like any sort of Nazism these days gets vilified, right? But when it comes to communism, it's like, oh, well, you can be a professor at a university and spout off this bullshit. That's totally fine. Even though this ideology literally killed hundreds of millions of people.
It's kind of required at this point.
It is. And here's the point here. Like, that I think that people should ask themselves, if somehow you're in this chat and you are I don't know, brain dead enough to be a communist, like, ask yourself a very simple question. Why do people flee from Cuba to the United States? From Cuba to the United States? Why do people flee from every communist country to capitalist countries, to more free countries? Have you ever heard of somebody fleeing from a capitalist country to a communist country? No, of course you haven't, because it doesn't happen. People flee from communism to capitalism. That should tell you everything you need to know, unless you are the retard of the week like Hassan. And apparently, either you are somehow a paid propagandist, I don't know, or you are just legitimately retarded. Like, now I almost feel bad, because perhaps Hassan is just a high functioning retard. He puts on really well, but somehow like he actually is just completely brain dead. But honestly, I would love to hear from the Canadians on this.
Yeah.
Because given your last prime minister, Justin Trudeau, was Fidel Castro's son, how do you feel about Hassan's recent, puff piece on Cuba? What are your thoughts?
Interesting talking about Piker, because he's like, I'm pretty sure he is a guy who just plays to his audience.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the audience is the big retard there, who's making him a millionaire for supporting communism and the delusional leftist dreams.
Twitch, I think, is his platform. So that's like, I mean, if you think Reddit is bad for kind of commie retardation, right? Like, Twitch is putting your thumb on the fucking hose, bud. Okay, it's high octane over there, and I don't think Piker. I don't think he's dumb. I think he's a smart guy. I don't think that CNN is a dumb network. I think they're playing to their audience too. To Walker's point, nobody in their right mind is going to be like watching this like segment and saying to themselves, I got to go to Cuba. Like, this is where I need to be putting down roots. Like, what am I waiting for? Havana looks incredible.
Why is Miami full of Cubans, right? Because
and by the way,
fucking sucks. Not the Cuban people, not the
geographical
area,
country, of course,
the government.
Yeah.
The
you know what's
state.
funny? If you go to Cuba, do you know what basically all their lore is? It's made up stories of them bettering America. It's like Ernest Hemingway came here and fucked a bunch of broads in the 1900s, and we love that guy for it. And it's like that's the story you guys want to share. Yeah,
you got cucked by Hemingway.
Well, it's so funny. Like, there's bronze busts of Hemingway all over Havana. It's actually an insane sort of like bit of legendary tale build up over there from this guy, and everyone is kind of comparing themselves, even in Cuba, to America. There's giant murals on buildings of Cuban leaders, revolutionary, political, and otherwise. And in every single mural, they're pointing at America And then you go to another city square or town square, and there's a little girl with a cannon. She's being held by her mother, and the cannon's pointing to America. Like, they're not pointing to America because they're winning. Okay. They're pointing to America because they're losing. And everyone knows that instinctively. And Piker knows it too. And it's really his audience that's the problem here, not him. He's making a pretty penny off of the back of these people, and shocking his dog along the way, like Walker said.
To clarify, when I rag on Canadians, guys, also like with Cubans, I'm not ragging on Canadians specifically. I love the Canadian people. Well, most of you.
Just compared us to Cubans. He's like when I rag on Canadians, but
Cubans, my point is when we talk about this, we're talking about the state, right? Yeah. That is, and I want to emphasize that if there's any Cubans listening to this, like shout out to you. You have come from some shit. Also, just a quick digression, then I'll pass it off. When he's like, they can't send money back. If only Hassan, there were a way for you to send money outside of the state apparatus. If only we had such a technology to do that.
You know, the crazy thing.
Why isn't he super pro Bitcoin if he cares about evading capital controls? Like that's so weird. It's almost like he doesn't actually stand for anything except being a sad sack of retard shit.
Yeah. And then the funny thing is that if you're in Cuba, using Bitcoin is illegal. Like you can't, like Joe Hall went down there and was trying to like film like documentary of like the like low key Bitcoin meetups and everything. And he had like state actors following him. He actually was texting Gladstein being like, yo, I think I'm in some actual trouble here. And Gladstein was like, yeah, that's why I didn't go. Like he had people following him because he was shooting.
But it's a communist paradise. Why? I don't understand. Hassan told me if it wasn't for a big bad America, it would be a paradise. I don't understand.
Well, I love that you talked about like the beautiful 1950s cars, and that's their selling features. Like, look at this; these are 3/4 of a century old. Aren't they gorgeous? Don't get me wrong.
You know what
I love
happened
a classic
in the 1960s? They became communist.
That's right.
It's like, why do you have 1950s cars? Oh, that's so how quaint, how nostalgic.
Best mechanics in the world, though.
Like, over there. I bet they are. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like,
Brandon, I'm curious to get your take on this.
Yeah, ingenious people.
Yeah, no, this is, I see people in the chat too, talking about capitalism is the same thing. Capitalism.
Are people still in the chat?
We don't have capitalism. Yeah. We don't have capitalism right now. I know socialists and communists love saying this. We've never tried it before. We've never done this. I mean, like, what are we doing here? Come on. I mean, like, when we chose to go the central bank route, you now don't have free markets. You have nothing resembling free markets. You now have communism. That is the fifth plank of the Communist Manifesto is centralized credit and central banking. Hello, what are we doing? And so we have a more Marxist socialized state. I mean, just in the last 15 years, Barack Obama passed the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. That is socialized medicine. Go to Canada and see what that does for you. Now they have the MAID program. Sarah Palin talked about this in the 2008 election. We're going to have death panels. The hospitals, the insurance, they will say who can live, who can die. And she was run off the campaign trail. I mean, this is so blatantly obvious, but people choose to get into the weeds of red versus blue, and they don't zoom out. We've talked about this many times throughout this conversation. Zoom out, back off, lower the emotion. When emotions go up, intelligence goes down. So we don't have anything resembling capitalism right now, and that's the thing. And the other thing I'm going to say too, which is I'm sure not popular with a lot of people, is Marxism and communism are very similar psychology to Satanism. Very similar. The seven levels of diabolical possession are very similar to communism and Marxism. And so that's another whole part of this that we're not going to go down today. But capitalism fails right now, and because we don't have it to a degree, right? But it's failing because of the central banking. The money that undergirds your economic system is really what lets the system fail or not fail. So when you have capitalism, a free market, and it sits on top of this monetary layer, we've chosen government fiat currencies. Well, of course, the capitalist economic system is going to devolve into this quagmire of quicksand. And that's what we have now, is cronyism, managerialism, creditism. And that's exactly what happens every single time. So it's very easy to see if you zoom out and you don't get caught up in the red versus blue, left versus right, CNN, Fox News, all this stuff. But again, most people don't want to do that. They want to get on their high horse and tell you, have a dick measuring contest and tell you how good their economic system is. So fix the money, and it's a Bitcoin show at the end of the day, right? Fix the money, and it starts to fix all of these things that are going on around you. Get rid of the central banks, not audit the Fed. Get rid of the Fed. Get rid of all of them. We don't have it. We need to have Bitcoin now, and that's really the answer at the end of the day.
Yeah, I just want to quickly point out that Mark's also knocked up the maid and then kicked them out on the street. So he's a deadbeat dad piece of shit too. Ben, do we have something more lighthearted coming up?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Walker, this was an excellent choice for Retard of the Week. But as I said, I think there's a room full of people that were really chomping at the bit to take this one. And so I think we need to take a quick look at exactly what that is. And so this is from the NDP Leadership Convention.
Look at the listeners on that girl, eh?
Dude,
Holy, bud.
Yeah.
Look at the 1940s German haircut.
Just missing one thing. Let's take a listen. This is during the convention. People could come up and ask questions. But the crazy thing here is that they gave out equity cards. And so what this is if you were in some maligned group for some reason, if you were if you weren't a white man, you would get an equity card. So you could basically like skip the line and ask your question first. And depending on how many different intersectionalities you had was how quickly, like who you could skip in front of and everything. So this is people arguing over like the equity cards and basically the I don't know, the victimhood Olympics of like, let me speak first. It's wild.
There's a point of privilege on microphone 1, then we'll go to microphone 3. Go ahead, delegate.
Yes, hello. I was standing here with my gender equity card before you called on the previous speaker. That's my point of privilege that I would like to raise.
I will explain the speaking order, which is fixed, that I cannot amend, which is the pro-con rotation. You can move yourself up a line that you're standing in.
I am pro, and I was...
We went...
You went pro, con,
We went pro-con, pro, and my plan was to go con. The speaker at con mic 3 also has a speaking card.
Yesterday, this card was used in an inappropriate manner. And while I understand in Ontario, we note this as equity, even if this was also used inappropriately in terms of gender. I want everyone to be mindful that these cards for individuals like myself who identify as a Black woman have no value outside of this space.
Hold on.
Look at the fucking hair.
We're not.
And
hold
the
on.
mask.
Is there more?
But it all comes together as well because we were also just down the communism rabbit hole, and so we need to also watch this clip. A guy named Rob Ashton on stage at the leadership. Not as many people have seen this clip, and it's great. It's off the rails. Take a listen.
I'm going to close this campaign the way I started. We're done being on the menu, and we're done with the ruling class eating us alive. It's time we take our seats at the table and eat the damn rich. I'm going to close this campaign.
He doesn't need to eat a damn thing. Like, come on.
He's out of breath trying to rally the troops.
This guy also, like this. It's a shorter clip, but he's talking about like seizing the means of production and like
he's a union guy. Rob Ashton's
Yeah.
a union guy.
East
Coast, I think. Yeah.
If you're advocating for communism, you're literally advocating for an ideology that's killed hundreds of millions of people. You're advocating for the most murderous political ideology that has ever existed. That's what you're advocating. Like, we actually need to beat that drum harder because it's genuinely absurd. Like, I'm on a fishing trip now. Three of the guys that are here with me literally escaped communism. Like, they literally escaped communism. Like, and you talk to anybody who did that, you talk to anybody who lived through communism and managed to escape from it alive, you know what they all have in common? They fucking hate communism. Like, why? Because it's bad. It's bad. People die. People starve. And it is giving the state the ultimate power. It is totalitarianism. And sorry, we can get back to the lighthearted, like how absurd that is. But like, genuinely,
let's change the mood. Hundreds of millions of people died and starved.
And look at those intersectionality cards.
Do you know what the best thing though about the conference is that after all the like talk of intersectionality, they, thems, like, you know, I'm gay, I get to talk first, whatever. The guy they elected is a straight white guy.
Yep.
Who lives in a well-to-do neighborhood, I think, in Toronto. So shocker, right? Like these people are so stupid. But the problem, like, by the way, is that NDP and liberal governments generally eat a little bit of each other's electorate. Like their constituents there's some overlap in that Venn diagram. I mean, this is a 0-seat party now. Yeah. So you're talking about dynastic liberal government. They're going to get a majority in a couple of weeks on those by-elections up here. And then who's going to beat them? We got problems, man. Big problems up here coming.
Yeah.
Let them talk too. Like there's so, like let them keep going.
Yeah.
Honestly, so the one thing that is a major positive that I've seen from this is that it's hitting the news circuits for the absolute right reasons. Because every person is looking at this being like, this is insane. Like we can't actually take this seriously anymore. But my question to the group though is this. Was there another one?
Oh my God. How much more can there be?
There was more.
What is this?
I just, while Ben's asking his question, I'll leave the volume off. You guys, I happened to notice something. I was looking through some of these clips, trying to see what else I could pull out.
Wow.
And I was noticing some trends about the kind of people that are hanging out and pushing this sort of thing. And so I'll just let that play, and you can see the different kind of, the appearance maybe of the people that are coming up and enjoying this. So Ben, take it away, please.
Yeah. So my big question to the group is, if Bitcast were to issue equity cards, what cards would we receive? And my main question is, who gets to talk first?
Probably you Canadians, because you're so oppressed.
I was going to say the Americans are going to say us because we're so disadvantaged.
You guys need it. You need it. Like it's
who's got the olive complexion?
If Walker grows his hair back, then maybe we could get something.
Wait, what are you getting at there? Not exactly sure which direction that one's going.
Well, obviously, the equity cards have to go to the core supporters because they're clearly the most retarded group, right? I think that's exactly, Walker, I got a big one for you. I know you're a huge Gloria fan. I'll get that bad boy printed up and laminated so you can't spill your juice on it, okay?
It is actually
all
crazy.
All the guy says is do what you want.
Spill your juice.
Do you know what's crazy is that these guys, sometimes in Bitcoin, it feels like you're in a bit of a bubble because, we all have normie friends and it's like, you talk to people and they're like, what do you mean the state is not your friend? Like, why didn't you get I know, fewer and fewer, honestly, to be straight. But the thing is, like, you're kind of in this bubble on Twitter and, we do shows like this. And now, like, I was talking to Brandon a little while ago and we're saying that through this group chat that we have is like the only group chat I visit now, more or less. And so you're talking to people who are like-minded all the time, right? And you kind of forget that there's this whole world out there that may or may not be leaving you behind in some respects. And Canada, in a lot of ways, is that person getting left behind by the rest of the world. Whether it's like the land declarations, there's a whole section of the population here who not only is trying to steal your house, but also demands that you refer to the planet as Turtle Island. And so there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that only Canada does. And outside of Canada, it's like a completely alien idea. But truly, to see what it's like to be left behind, watching this conference will give you that sort of flavor, right? You have the woman in the mask, the equity cards, these are actual cards, not hypothetical or sort of symbolic cards. They're all holding a card. I don't know what that one girl's card is. I mean, she's got the Palestinian scarf on, and she's a visible minority.
Specifically said gender equity though.
Like, what is that? Like, you're a chick? Is that that's the thing?
Someone who identifies as a man
say
must
chick,
have spoke
Joey.
first.
That's problematic.
What is it better to say? Broad? What should I say?
Yeah, broad. Yeah,
broad is better. They like that better. Yeah.
Or birther. You can call
or bird.
birthers.
Yeah, bird is good too.
No, birthers.
Yeah. Oh, birthers. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know where the term broad came from? I'm not repeating it on the stream.
Yeah, I know. It's a butcher's term. Look it up if you don't know. But it's interesting. It's interesting to see like how far behind some of these groups are, right? And so the thing is that to us, that NDP convention seems like this is a group that's kind of been left behind by what's going on. But the fact of the matter is that's a mainstream group. Yeah. If you look at other sort of
more
fringe
mainstream
groups,
than us.
Yeah, if you look in other more fringe groups in Canada, it's actually much worse than that. You could look at many different university groups and union groups and dare I say, like, these anarchist groups that are popping up. I know here where I am, there's like a group that meets not far from me, maybe a 20-minute drive, and they're sort of this ANCAP, but it's not cool ANCAP. It's like loser ANCAP, like everyone's shirt is too big and they call themselves the Tower or something like that. These groups are even further behind. And so when you think that this is as bad as it gets, consider the things that don't make it to Twitter, don't make it to TV. the guy who won that leadership election was on the national news network for a 20-minute one-on-one segment with the heaviest hitter politician this country has. Vashi Kapelos did a thing with Avi Lewis, who won that, I think, on Sunday night or Monday morning. So, like, this guy is mainstream. And
Joey, they're the third biggest party, right? They actually win seats in Canada.
They won't anymore, but they were.
No,
they were going to win seats for sure. And don't forget, that party's been kind of trending toward irrelevancy for a long time because they were the party of the working person, who, by the way, right now needs a political party to share their interests. But you can't tell me that the guy who's laying beads on a factory floor looks at, the girl who's got better satellites than fucking NASA there talking about, gender equity in her fucking tuxedo. And like, this is the thing that's representing my interest. There's just no way. That's a party that's lost its way. But there are many other groups who are much further away from rationality than that, and that's what you should be thinking about.
They don't support the working class. They just hate the rich, and it's just
totally
pure envy. Sorry, Brandon. Go ahead.
Enemies unite us, right?
There's been a couple of people in the chat today, and then in other streams too, that are, it's like, oh, come here for the Bitcoin and, get political propaganda, right? But this is the point, right? We're fighting an information war. Like, the promise of Bitcoin hasn't changed. So what do you want us to do? Talk about 21 million all day long? I mean, what the hell are we doing here, right? Like, we're fighting a propaganda war. It's an information war, 5G war, whatever you want to call it. We're in spiritual warfare. And if you don't understand that we have to mock the hell out of the existing system, then you're in the wrong arena here. You don't understand. You're just like the normies. You might as well be at this convention right here, because there is no emotion, there's no logic that's going to get through to any of these people. We are the minority. We're the small irate minority. Like, get it? We got to get through our heads here. And I'm maybe the worst person at this sometimes, thinking like, oh yeah, this is common sense. Like, other people got to see this too. And to your guys' point, absolutely not. Most people are like these yahoos we're looking at right now. And when emotion goes up, intelligence goes down. That's how most people are operating. If this was logical, Bitcoin would have won in 2010. It would have been boom, first year done, game over. Like, yeah, it's logical. Humans aren't that. We are emotional based creatures. We have to be fighting that through mocking, through making a joke of a lot of the stupid things that we're seeing, because logic just doesn't do it. One of the great things, just to bring it to like a real like intelligent or academic setting, is the All In podcast from like a year or so ago. Professor John Mearsheimer and Professor Jeffrey Sachs, kind of like on two sides of the coin, arguing the software thesis without them knowing it, basically, but arguing real power versus abstract power. And so saying like what would happen if the Iran war happened, or China and all this stuff. And it's playing out right now. And that's why we talk about the software thesis and what's actually happening, because you have this world where like these people believe in abstract power and thinking like, oh, my communist ways, like that's just going to win, like, and taking nothing in human psychology, like how things actually play on real life. There's a saying in hockey, you can't just throw your sticks on the ice. Like, on paper, we're a better team. You got to play the fucking game. It doesn't matter. It does not matter if communism, if we're living in a utopia and we're all robots, we're all the same. It doesn't play out in practice. In real life, that's not how the world works. And so you have this world where like the Trump stuff, he's showing you real power wins. The JDAM, the 2,000-pound JDAM above your head, beats all of what NATO's going to say, and the World Bank, and international law, and the Constitution. If someone's dropping the bomb above your head, you can believe it or not, but guess what? You're going to find out the truth in a couple seconds. And that's what's being exposed in real time. It's breaking 99% of the world's minds, even people in the chat, and it's going to continue until people wake up and we discard this old worldview we've been brainwashed with for over a century.
Yeah, I do want to just quickly add to it. Like, one of the reasons I think these kind of topics are so important for us to touch on is, one, it's the heart of the problem. It's the emotional pull that actually gets you into this. And like, for me personally, I'm not gonna speak for you guys, but like, two things that I really, really want to put forward is, number one, the state, all of them, they're all your enemy. And number two, there is no political solution. And so by mocking this, by pointing this out, by showing the problems on all sides, I am not advocating for any political party. I'm trying to explain to you why that can't possibly work. Ben?
Yeah. I mean, beautifully said. Again, it's to the point of everybody here. Yeah, absolutely. This is a Bitcoin show, and with Bitcoin and Brandon, what you talked about, once you grok what Bitcoin is, why it exists, and why it's important in the grand scheme of things, it's time to talk about all of the other things that come alongside with being a Bitcoiner. And part of that is realizing the faults of what's going on and trying to figure out how we're best going to navigate the clusterfuck that's coming straight for us.
Yep.
So with that comes, being sovereign with your money, but also being sovereign with, you know, your online life and the tools that you use, not just for your Bitcoin, but for your online digital privacy and your sovereign computing and all of that, but also talking about geopolitical risks, like where are you going to go if shit hits the fan, that kind of stuff. And so, you know, I think these conversations are important and very interesting to have, and also kind of funny as fuck. Let's be real. So, so nonetheless, this was an absolute killer jam. I really enjoyed it. You know, it was fine. I guess Walker was back, whatever. But
hey, he did the whole show outside. You guys can't see the private chat. He's every time Ben gets on the advertising train there, he goes to take a leak. He's got to go again right now.
I don't have to go again right now, guys. I've had a few Miller Lights. You know what I mean? Like,
I drank 14 beers today. Come on.
Before this show.
Yeah. Also, I just want to address again. There's all these rumors swirling. Everybody's saying that this show is going to start happening. You know, 3 days is the rumor, but yeah, 5. I've been hearing 3 days a week, spitting around. Everybody's saying, chirping about it. It's not fucking happening. Like, can you imagine the 5 of us 3 days a week?
Imagine
Monday,
the
Wednesday,
smell
Friday at
Joey.
5 p.m. Eastern time. I can't even fathom it. So it's a hard no. It's not happening. Definitely not happening next week.
Not happening next week. No.
Yeah, absolutely not. So anyways, guys, give a slap to that like button, share this wherever you are watching it. We appreciate it. And we'll see you for the next one, and maybe even see you guys in Vegas as well. Have a good one. I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions. This was Bitcast. When I first got into Bitcoin, I was overwhelmed. The jargon, the security risks, the fear that one mistake could cost everything. I remember staring at my screen and wondering, are my keys safe? Did I do this right? That experience is why I started BTC Sessions. For over a decade, this channel has helped millions of people like you learn how to use and secure Bitcoin. But I realized something. For many people, videos aren't enough. Everyone learns differently. Some need to ask questions in real time as an expert walks through their setup, their goals, and their threat model. And certain things like advanced cold storage, inheritance planning, privacy, and node or mining setups often can't be fully solved by watching another tutorial. So I built BTC Mentor. I recruited the best Bitcoin educators on the planet to work with you one-on-one. Real experts, real answers, personalized hands-on guidance tailored to your exact situation. Whether you're brand new or building a complex setup, we meet you where you're at and walk with you step by step. By the end, you don't just hope your Bitcoin is safe, you know it is. If you're ready for that level of confidence, then head to btcmentor.io and book a call with us today.